the pros will not use carrier because there are better alternatives out there. But, you know, there's people that want to just rock with Rhino and Boltor Prime and carrier, and, you know, that's fine. They can be casual.
Now, Warframe has had a lot of wars over the years. It's in the feckin' name. Sentience, Corpus, Grineer, elevated doors when randoms would close them on you, but one of the original, most emotionally, I guess, charged conflicts in the game's history wasn't a faction, it wasn't a boss, it wasn't even a weapon, it was picking loot up off the floor. If you were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Universal vacuum.
Okay, just one time. Yeah. That's it!
We didn't always have it, and technically we still don't, but they did compromise by adding vacuum to all sentinels and also giving it to all of our companions, or a version of it. From about 2013 until its addition in September 2016. Now, to understand why Warframe is so damn popular today, you've got to follow the road behind it, because the mistakes and the changes made over those years are the blueprint for where we are right now. Now, from the moment Warframe was released in open beta, the idea of picking up loot was always a hot topic, constantly being brought up. But around 2015 in September, Devstream 59 onwards, somewhere around that time, Vacuum stopped being this companion precept mod and turned into a constant debate. And one, to Rebecca's credit, she kept bringing up on dev streams. She was pushing hard for it, while some of the old dev team at that time pushed against it, with Glenn, I think, even referring to anyone using a carrier sentinel as a casual, and if you didn't use it, then you were in fact a pro.
Like, there's new stuff coming that is different and interesting in different ways that maybe advanced players will be able to appreciate more than just yet another vacuum cleaner.
Right.
Yep. And, you know, the pros, and some people will even say, like, screw carrier, screw all the sentinels, I'm going to use a dog because dog has so much better survivability, I can revive it.
Yeah.
And I still find that deeply funny, because Warframe in and of itself is an insanely casual game, but at the same time, you could delete a room with space magic and status ailments, and then you would then immediately have to shuffle back to run over and pick up all of your loot that would be scattered around the room, and this apparently is what made you pro. Now, Warframe is built on flow, on speed, momentum, bullet jumping, sliding, nuking and constant movement, but it is also a loot game, and having to stop to gather items broke that movement flow. But the old dev team didn't really see it that way. They seen picking items up as a fundamental part of the game's loop, and they felt that the request for a universal vacuum for all sentinels would trivialize that loop. It would remove player choice or player interaction, and it would make companions less meaningful. So players were asking for a quality of life addition, and the developers didn't want to break their design philosophy. Look, if loot drops, it matters. Even if it's tiny, even if it's technically not important loot, your brain doesn't care. Your brain still goes, oh, that's valuable, quick, pick it up. And up until this point, we only had the Carrier Sentinel, which had the vacuum precept ability. No other Sentinel had it, which meant Carrier was being used by over 80% of the total community. Almost everyone was using Carrier, 1 out of the 5 possible Sentinels at that time, which led to a balance problem. No one wanted to use the other Sentinels, and eventually they didn't want to use Kubros either, because once you used Vacuum with Carrier, there was basically no going back. Now, the flow of the game changed. You weren't no longer stopping to hoover up drops. You were moving, you were sliding, you were bullet jumping, you were killing, and you were chaining momentum. And Warframe felt faster, it felt smoother, it felt more like what Warframe should be, and suddenly a tiny Sentinel mod wasn't just a convenience, it was a quality of life. It allowed you to enjoy the other aspects of the game more. So what followed was months and months, about a year or a year and a half of forum posts, of Reddit debates, of constant Devstream questions, which, like I said, Rebecca constantly brought up. Questions and debates all asking for a universal vacuum, either for all Sentinels or for Warframes themselves. Now, there was a moment in Devstream 80, I think a full year after Devstream 59, where they seriously started talking about a broader vacuum access to everyone and adding it to Sentinels, but it was still full of compromises.
Okay. Frost Phoenix asks, when will vacuum become a global thing? Like, seriously, when?
And we're going to take vacuum and smash it into 3 parts and make it equipable to any Sentinel. So basically, there will be 3 vacuum types that you can choose from, and you'll be able to equip them on any Sentinel.
They basically proposed vacuum becoming multiple mods, splitting it up by loot type, it becoming a choice you build around rather than accessibility, but none of that sounded good to the community. And of course there was a lot of please don't do this, please don't add this into the game type of feedback, and that idea was thankfully scrapped. Now, eventually they let up. 3 years after Warframe was released into open beta in 2013, 3 years of either no vacuum at the beginning or one sentinel having vacuum, and 3 years of the community begging for it to be added. We got the big update, the vacuum within, and of course it's following up hotfixes. Vacuum was now equipable on all sentinels with a 12-meter range at maximum rank, with talk of them maybe adding vacuum also to Kubros or other pets down the line as well, depending on how well this edition went. And I think it's fair to say it went pretty feckin' well. We have a baseline vacuum radius on Warframes. All companions from Moas to Hounds to Kubros to Kavats all have a version of vacuum, and players are free to bring whichever companion they want that complements their current setup based on the companion's abilities or mods, more so than you wanting that vacuum precept because you don't want to miss out on any of the resources that you may need to upgrade something or build something or maybe feed to the Helminth. And I could imagine that if Warframe was released in 2026 and it didn't have that innate vacuum, then there would be a much larger outcry. Now, for years, we as players argued that this was a quality of life issue, while DE argued that it was a system issue, and annoyingly, I guess maybe both sides were kind of right. Vacuum wasn't about damage, it wasn't about power creep, it wasn't making the game easier, it was just from a comfort standpoint, and maybe too much comfort in a game can be a little bit dangerous for developers, because then it becomes an expectation with everything that they implement. But the best quality of life changes basically make it feel like the game is no longer wasting your time. But that is pretty much Warframe's universal war, and I genuinely love the fact that DE did eventually change course and did add universal vacuum and allow us to play the game the way I feel like it should have been played, where you can spend more time enjoying the mobility, the movement, the combat within Warframe, the things that stand out the most, and not be running around looking at your feet and trying to pick up all of the resources in case you miss out on something that you desperately needed. So that's pretty much the vacuum wars. Now tell me, right, be honest, if Warframe launched today, do you think that vacuum would be a baseline addition to the game, or would we still be negotiating with developers to try and get it implemented? Either way, have a great day, have a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.